Hi, welcome to Cage Minds MMA show. I'm Mika Frankl. Whether you're watching or listening, I appreciate you. If you're watching, please like, share, and subscribe. If you're listening, follow, rate, and review. Visit the website, it's cageminds.com. We have a lot going on. The latest news in the MMA world, a lot going on the regional side of the sport, especially focusing on our local New Mexico scene right here where I'm located. Want to support the cause? We got merchandise available. The website has officially changed over. nmproshop.com will still take you to the Now Prince website, but to get directly to the Cage Minds merchandise, it's nowprince.com/cageminds. It'll get you where you need to go. The hoodies, the t-shirts, the beanies, the coffee mugs available. It's getting warmer. The tank tops are coming. Want more MMA podcasts to listen to while you're on your way wherever you're going? Check out MMA After Hours. And if you like the sports entertainment side of action and combat sports, that's professional wrestling, check out Pro Wrestling After Hours. I do both of those with Mr. Michael Carlisle on the After Hours Podcast Network. cageminds.com/after hours to find all the latest episodes from the After Hours Podcast Network. There's 4 shows in all. And if you love sports, music, and entertainment, got another great podcast for you. It's Mike Adams 2.0. I'm on there most of the time playing sports fact or fiction, and then we started a new segment recently called Solo or Group. Gonna be picking that up again this week, so check out Mike Adams 2.0 on ESPN The Team. That's 1017 The Team, ESPN Radio Albuquerque here locally. Find all 3 of those, and including this one, the Cage Minds podcast, wherever you find your favorite podcast. You also hear every interview I put up for Cage Minds on those podcasts. That's all of the particulars. Now we're going to look back. It was a slow week in the combat sports world. We're not going to say that many times throughout the year, but this past weekend was one of those times. Not much going on, but there was still some fights that we must recognize. XMMA 4 going down in the NOLA, New Orleans, Louisiana. And let's just get something out of the way, obviously, straight off the bat. In Louisiana, they are still going off of the old scoring system, the old scoring criteria. That means it's nearly impossible to get a 10-8 round. It's just not going to happen. I'm going to bring that up because we get right to it. John Dodson, Francisco Rivera, the former 2-time UFC title challenger, the tough winner, taking on a murderous knockout artist in Francisco Rivera. Dodson blitzing in early, the rapid fire left hands going to both levels, rocking Rivera, getting on top, having some great ground and pound, taking the back. A big first round in favor of the Magician. Thinking surefire 10-8 right there. Second round, Dodson again with the straight lefts early on. You could see a straight leg Rivera. He's in a bad position early on in that second round. To Rivera's credit, though, he does mount a comeback, applying pressure, swinging away with his right hand. A low blow from Rivera gives Dodson a couple moments to catch his breath at the end of the second and end the second round on top with a takedown. So I'm going to tell you, the last 90, the first 90, both for Dodson, feeling like there's 2 in the bag already for John Dodson. The third round, Dodson pokes Rivera in the eye. Rivera applies pressure, landing well with his right hook, going high with the right kick. Dodson still blitzing in and out, but not finding the range as much. He's attacking with leg kicks and finishes the fight, searching for a takedown, but it felt like that third round was a Rivera round. The scorecards all across the board, 29-28 in favor of Dodson. The questioning of the scorecards on commentary was about could that second round have went in favor of Rivera, but I feel like there's a necessary conversation about spotlighting such a dominant first round not being rewarded with the proper score. Something to raise an eyebrow about. The co-main event, Curtis Millender, Jared Gooden, two UFC vets. Malott poked in the eye early, short shots, and knocked down in that first round. Second round, a low kick, another right hand from Gooden, and that's all she wrote. A quick TKO victory. That's 2 in a row by knockout for Jared Gooden since parting ways with the UFC. A horrible performance for Curtis Malott, who I'm not sure if he could see anything after the initial eye poke. Not saying it was on purpose, but it's not a bad strategy to poke your opponent in the eye immediately and then start chucking bombs at him. Can't see, vulnerable, then you get the knockout. In middleweight action, Kyle Stewart defeats Zach Ottawa, handing Ottawa his first post-UFC loss. It was activity with the left hand from Stewart in the first round, sneaking the right hand in over the top, and also landing some killer low calf kicks. It was the head kick for a knockdown in the second round for Stewart. A second knockdown comes with a straight right. But to the resilience of Ottawa, he battles back, puts Stewart on the fence, and gets the takedown to win the third round. Unanimous decision, though, in favor of Kyle Stewart. The feature fight had the fight of the night as John Sweeney defeats Cole Smith by split decision. But again, this one was somewhat eyebrow-raising on the scorecards. Smith with right hooks and takedowns. All Smith in the first round. Sweeney, huge left hooks, battles his way back in the second, up for grabs as we go into the third, and Sweeney hits his takedown, is able to grind it out from the top to get what was in my books a 29-28 victory. It's the 30-27 that one judge gives. You have to give Cole Smith the respect he deserves for the damage done in the first round, for the takedown. It was easy to score this fight, but a split decision and a 30-27 makes the fight very complicated in an unnecessary fashion. Sasha Platnikov takes out Kyra Bowden. Had to survive a head kick to get a pair of takedowns, and as Bowden sells out for the leg lock, Platnikov is able to answer with the ground and pound and gets the first round TKO. Quickest finish of the main card comes from Andrew Garrett. He improves to 2-0, defeating Justin Meade by TKO, ground and pound, in 96 seconds. Turn our attention over to the news and fight announcements. UFC Fight Night on April 16th has announced a pair of light heavyweights going to battle at heavyweight. William Knight and Devin Clark. Auspiciously, we all remember that William Knight missed weight at UFC 272 by a record 14 pounds. Devin Clark, always willing to fight, jumping up. This one coming together on short notice. Most likely the reasoning for it being at heavyweight. UFC Fight Night 2 weeks later on April 30th has a featherweight edition. Andre Touchy-Feely will take on Contender Series alum Brazil's Yo Anderson Brito. The UFC Fight Night on May 14th has announced a top-ranked women's flyweight bout. Caitlin Chikagian will take on Amanda Ribas. And in a men's flyweight matchup being rebooked for the card, Jake Hadley will take on Alan Nascimento. UFC 275 on June 11th. The latest matchup to that card is a bantamweight edition. Kung Ho Kang will take on Simon Oliveira. The UFC event on April 18th has added 2 middleweight bouts. This is most likely going to be a fight night card. We have Julian Marquez against Wellington Thurman and Phil Haas versus Darian Wynn. And rounding out the UFC fight announcements is a heavyweight addition to the UFC Fight Night on June 25th. Josh Parazian against Alan Budo. We got some Bellator news. Bellator will be returning to the Mohegan Sun Arena in Ucasville, Connecticut, June 24th for Bellator 282. The main event, middleweight world title fight, as Gegard Mousasi will take on unbeaten number 1 contender Johnny Eblen. Bantamweight World Grand Prix quarterfinals will end at Bellator 282. Magomed Magomedov will be facing the winner of Enrique Brizola. Josh Hill on the evening, and Leandro Hito will be taking on the winner of Jornel Lugo versus Danny Sabatella. Both of those taking place at Bellator 279 coming up this month. And in flyweight, women's flyweight action, number 5 ranked Alejandra Lara will be taking on Alera Joanne. LFA news. LFA 131 has been announced for May 6th. It'll be the promotion's return to Oshkosh, Wisconsin. More details will be available to you as soon as I get them. We got some PFL news. The first 3 weeks of the 2022 regular season will take place at the Esports Arena in Arlington, Texas. Week 2 is April 28th. Featherweights and heavyweights will be up that week. Heavyweight main event, Bruno Capazola versus Stuart Austin. And a trio of featherweight bouts I want to highlight. Brendan Loughnane is going to take on Roy G. Kudo. You have former WSOF and 2-time PFL champion Lance Palmer taking on last year finalist Chris Wade. And UFC vet Brazilian Shaman Moraes takes on young prospect knockout artist, a UFC vet who is back on the scene for a second time after tuning a lot of stuff up, Boston Salmon. This kid had the world of potential and a hard fall. This is a big year, though, for him, I feel like, in the PFL, and not cutting weight anymore all the way down to bantamweight. Week 3 will be on Friday, May 6th. As soon as we get that card, we'll let you know what's shaping up for the PFL when the welterweights and the women's lightweights take center stage for the first time of the season. Invicta FC 47 has been announced for May 11th. They have not confirmed the location for this one, but former atomweight champion Alicia Zapatella is moving up to strawweight to challenge Emily Ducote for the Invicta FC strap. This weekend's action, we got LFA 128 on tap from the Sanford Pentagon in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. The main event will see a new and 7th LFA lightweight champion crown, and it'll be the 3rd LFA lightweight title fight in South Dakota. That vacant title fight will feature Aaron McKenzie 10-2-1 against Lucas Clashes K 8-1. McKenzie is a Rafael Lovato Jr. protege on a 3-fight win streak. All 3 wins have come inside of the LFA. Overall, with 10 wins, McKenzie has 3 submissions and 4 wins by TKO. Clay is a relative of the great boxer Muhammad Ali, who's on a 4-fight win streak. Clay overall has 3 submissions, 5 wins by decision. At LFA 128, he earned a nomination for Submission of the Year with a Doris choke that took out Jake Korzotsky. In heavyweight co-main event action, we have Jimmy Lawson against Marino Eatman. Lawson from AKA, he's on a 3-fight win streak. All 3 have come by TKO. And at LFA 114, he stopped Anthony Garrett. Eatman has all of his wins by decision. The biggest win of his career came over well-respected veteran former M1 world champion Kenny Gardner. So Eatman definitely a wily underdog in this one. In a 160-pound feature fight, you're going to see Devin Dixon, who's 4-0-1, taking on Richie Miranda. Miranda 3-0. Dixon, all of his fights have come inside of Titan FC. His first time in the LFA. He does have 3 finishes. So that's 2 submissions and a knockout. Well, Miranda coming in with a 100% finishing rate, and 2 of those coming in the first round. So that one definitely going to be explosive. UFC returns after a long weekend away, and it's pay-per-view time again. UFC 273 on ESPN+. It's coming to us from the VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena, Jacksonville, Florida. Gonna highlight a couple changes on the card real quick. A funny situation. We have Alaire Latifi versus Alexia Oleinik. That was supposed to happen 2 weeks ago. Got quickly rebooked. Well, now Latifi has had to pull out Oleinik will remain on the card, taking on Jared Vanderaa. In a middleweight bout that has seen, well, two middleweight bouts have seen a lot of shifting going on. Nasruddin Imavov was forced to withdraw from his bout with Kelvin Gastelum, who was then matched with Decris Du Plessis, who was expected to take on Anthony Hernandez. Hernandez will remain on the card, taking on Josh Frem. But unfortunately for Decris Du Plessis, Kelvin Gastelum has had to withdraw from injury. No official word yet from the UFC if Decris will remain on the card, but it does appear that Frem versus Hernandez is locked in and will be on the prelims. Well, let's get to previewing the card. That is a championship doubleheader and a rematch that the whole world is waiting for. But first, let's talk about the main event, as champion Alexander Volkanovski will put his belt on the line, the UFC Featherweight Championship, against the number 4 ranked South Korean Chan Sung Jung. Volkanovski on a 20-fight win streak. His last 4 wins are Brian Ortega, Max Holloway, and Jose Aldo. There is just so many things that the champion demonstrates. So many different dimensions that he's able to bring at a fighter. 11 wins by knockout. You know, there is power behind the punches of a man who is a professional rugby player. Used to weigh, I believe, 50 pounds more than what he competes at as a 145-pound world champion. The Australian is a high IQ fighter who has been able to go into the depths of the 5-round war with Max Holloway and outthink his opponent. An incredible 6.42 strikes landed per minute and only absorbs 3.34 strikes absorbed. Takes a little bit, but gives out a lot more. The leg kicks, the jab, a huge reach advantage in every fight. Absurdly long arms for Volkanovski. 57% accurate on his strikes landed and 70% takedown defense. He's accurate. He'll hit you. He doesn't get hit as much. He makes it hard to take him down. Volkanovski will always have a black eye under his eye by the end of a 5-round war. But we've seen in the heat of a battle in a war, he will not submit. He will get out of the deepest chokehold, a Brian Ortega T-City chokehold, and the champion was able to survive. The Korean Zombie has 1 of 3 of 4. Decisions over Dan Ige, a loss to Brian Ortega, a first-round knockout of Frankie Edgar, and a first-round finish of Renato Moicano. And let's not forget, beating Yair Rodriguez for 24 minutes and 59 seconds until getting knocked out at the UFC 25th anniversary show. A knockout in infamy. But unfortunately, a hunger to go for the excitement instead of backing up to take the safe win that has possibly delayed this second world title opportunity for much longer than it should have been. And a bit of luck that Max Holloway had an injury that now he's clear from. Holloway is adamant he could have been ready to get his 4th fight on with Volkanovski here at UFC 273. But before getting that injury taken care of, Holloway had to pull out of fight. Chan Sung Jung, fortune smiles upon him, and now he is in it to win it. 6 wins by knockout, 7 by submission. That's 13 finishes of the 17. Zombie is an all-action fighter, for better or worse, who comes forward. How will Chan Sung Jung look with a second, and I may be wrong here, maybe a possibly 3rd fight in Arizona, training under the tutelage of Henry Cejudo at Fight Ready? What will those differences look like now for Jung? A Jung that was already implementing a different game plan which is the first couple camps in this new environment. Will it be enough to take the Zombie to a next level? But one thing that you can better bet on is that when the lights are brightest and the crowd is going crazy, I don't think that Chan Sung Jung is going to be able to stay out of just getting in there and throwing down with a Volkanovski who is seen to be able to outthink everybody in this division. And not to mention, he hurts guys while doing it, putting a beating on Brian Ortega that doesn't fall anything short of just being equivalent to what Max Holloway does. There's a reason why the general perception is that Volkanovski and Holloway are a cut above the rest when it comes to this division. Zombie lands 4.07 strikes per minute, but absorbs 3.87. A very small line between how much he lands to how much he absorbs. 55% defense. Yep, some wing by and some land straight on. The odds have the champion as the favorite, a minus 700, and the challenger will come in as an underdog on the short notice at plus 525. I don't feel like Volkanovski is the champion that has much of the nightlife. This is a man that hangs out with his family, doesn't spend much time at the club, works out in a garage, has had to overcome COVID, overcome many restrictions to get through his last camp, to get through a fully prepared killer in Brian Ortega. On short notice, there is not an inkling of me that expects Volkanovski to have underestimated the Korean Zombie. Does the Zombie present the kind of boxing prowess and striking capability to make an exciting fight and possibly hurt the champion? This is MMA. Anything could happen. We understand that the betting lines are there to encourage you to bet, and Zombie is a huge favorite, so money is probably coming in like crazy because you think it's a huge bet. I think that the champion does retain too much tactic, too much smarts, too much toughness. And still, you've seen, as the last few fights have went great for Zombie, there was a point in his career where he started to take too much damage, and that ticket does come due at some point. The co-main event is the rematch we've been waiting for. Aljamain Sterling, the champion, the interim champion, Peter Yan. Sterling, the neck is all healed up. Don't forget a 6-fight win streak. The last two, Corey Sandhagen and Pedro Munoz, before March 20 of 21, where he won the title by getting illegally kneed in the head by Peter Yan. Peter Yan lost that belt and handed it to Aljamain Sterling because he blatantly, obviously broke the rules. To much of our dismays, the back position and control time that was displayed throughout that fight, when many of us felt it was not a major factor, was in actuality very pivotal to judging scoring, and had a Sterling who was taking more of the damage up on the cards. That has got to be a point of emphasis for the Yan camp coming into this one. We have to fight the hands. If we cannot fight the hands and break this back control position, we may get rode through this entire fight. Sterling, he lands 4.84 strikes per minute, and he is accurate 49% of the time, while he gets out of the way of 63% of the strikes coming back at him. A wrestler at heart, but 24% effective on his takedowns. It's the attempts, the attempts, the attempts. He will keep you wrestling, and he will test your cardio. He will test the gas tank. It is a second, a third effort, and when you give up that effort, Sterling will take your back and get the chokehold. And not to mention, his striking keeps evolving. This is a guy who, well, he has spent well over, it feels like, a year having dealt with neck issues. If you follow him on social media, or you follow fighters from the contingent that have all seemed to now move out to Las Vegas, a large portion of them Ali Al-Wazidi managed fighters, a large portion of these fighters training at Extreme Couture, you can see the champion seemed to always be diligently putting in work. I would not be surprised to see a new version of Aljamain Sterling, but we already knew, again, that back control. And he did it so well against Corey Sandhagen that he got the choke, is a vulnerability to Yan and something that must be addressed. Yan, 16 wins, 7 by knockout. He's 1-10 of 11. Besides that disqualification, the last 3 are Corey Sandhagen, Jose Aldo, and Uriah Faber. Talk about crushing through featherweight royalty and taking out the top bantamweight prospect. 5.98 strikes landed per minute and 52% accurate on those strikes, while defending 62%. Both guys hit or miss kind of with landing, but are very aware of what's coming back. Well, the takedown defense is 89%. We saw that Sterling was not able to take down or effectively grapple, really getting much done in terms of threatening a finish to the fight against Jan in their first meeting, but what he was able to do was milk minutes off the clock and effectively nullify the striking. If Jan wants to strike, he's going to have to be able to separate the hands and get away from Sterling. The odds come in at a minus 475 favorite for the interim champion Peter Yan. Most of us feel like Jan was winning on the scorecards. Don't know what those judges were looking at. The champion coming in as a plus 350 and a mountainous-sized chip on his shoulder, and probably will not be a pleasure to deal with throughout the week, as he has been counted down by the fans. No one's respecting him. There's going to be a huge narrative and a lot to prove from Aljamain Sterling, and let's not gloss over the fact that the part of the country and the country that Peter Yan represents had many worried that he may not make it in to America for this fight. He is here. We will have that co-main event Saturday night, barring all things going well this week. The feature fight, hugely crucial at 170 pounds. I fully believe Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards will be announced, possibly in the coming days. Let's get that announcement going. This one could determine who that winner fights next. We got the number 2 ranked Gilbert Burns, 20-4, taking on the unbeaten phenom Khamzat Chimaev, coming in at 11-0. Burns has won 7 of 8. He's landed 3.12 strikes per minute on 46% accuracy, with 50% takedown defense and 55% defense to his striking. The last 2 wins for the Brazilian have been decisions over names like Wonderboy Thompson and the former world champion Tyron Woodley. For my money, I know people love the scorecard argument that Colby beat Usman, but no one has damaged the champion more than what Gilbert Burns did with one big hook. He had Usman hurt early, couldn't get the job done. This is a dangerous, top of the food chain hammer with world-class ADCC winning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. As a complete mixed martial arts, Gilbert Burns is the total package. I'm not talking about Lex Luger. Again, I have a pro wrestling podcast, Pro Wrestling After Hours. If you want to talk about Lex Luger, we do it over there. This is a total package in terms of he can strike, he can kick, he can elbow, he can wrestle, he can submit you. Khamzat Chimaev, though, is this freak of nature, a massive-looking man. I've seen this dude who's competing at 170 next to light heavyweights and kind of making them look average. Khamzat Chimaev has 2 wins in the UFC's welterweight division, 2 wins in the UFC's middleweight division, for 4-0 start to his UFC career, 2 submissions, 2 knockouts. He'll have a 4-inch reach advantage. He lands 8.68 strikes per minute on 76% accuracy. He has dumped everybody on their head and beaten the crud out of them, except for that one time where he shut Gerald Mearshart with a right hand. There's a clip flying around the internet of some years back when Brian Stan was still with the UFC. Yes, Brian Stan, remember the All-American, phenomenal commentator. He was at a Q&A, and he was asked, who does he see being the most deserved fighter outside of the UFC of receiving a UFC contract? And he refers to some welterweight he's heard of out of Sweden fighting with the All-Stars gym. We're getting to this is Khamzat Chimaev. That's how much expectation, how much potential has been on this man all along. 4.65 takedowns per 15 minutes. Does he get every takedown? No, but he's ruthless and aggressive to the max, and not to mention 75% defense. He hasn't been hit, and he's been wrecking guys so far. Chimaev coming in. The hype train is a minus 490 favorite. Well, Burns, the veteran with the experience, who's tried and tested, coming in as a plus 360 underdog. If there's one burning a hole in your pocket, I'm kind of thinking, let's test the prospect. I'm not saying it's inconceivable to think that Chimaev could walk away with a victory, but I'm just saying for betting terms, I like that one a little bit more than wagering on the dog in the co-main event. No disrespect, Sterling. I'm just talking about pure betting strategy if you're putting money on it. Now here we go. Also on the main card, women's strawweight action. I'm only talking about 4 fights for the main card because we're not sure what they're going to do with that 5th spot after having, like I said, lost the Decris versus Calvin Gastelum fight. Here we got number 5, Mackenzie Dern, taking on number 7, Tisha Torres. Dern, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu ace, 7 submissions of her 11 MMA victories, is 4-1 in her last 5, rededicated since having a child. 3 first-round submissions in that 4-1 span. An armbar of Nina Nunez, an armbar around DeMarcos, a knee bar of Hannah Cyphers. Tisha Torres needs to keep this standing. She is a very proficient striker, a 3-fight win streak, 11 wins by decision. She knows how to go the distance, keep her engine going, and keep fighting at an effective high pace. 4.71 strikes landed per minute, 3.61 absorbed, so it's a full integer less, a full strike less absorbed. The defense is 48%, while the takedown defense is 58%. And I know that Torres has been mixing in that ground game as of late, but be a kickboxer here, maybe even just be a boxer. Dern coming in as a slight minus 125 favorite, while Torres is your 105 underdog. Mentioned the canceled fight. There's rumors that the heavyweights could go to the main card, and this could be a loser leaves town match. Jared Vandera has lost so far his last 2 inside of the octagon, while Oleinik, the 76 fight vet from Russia who has 46 wins by submission, has lost his last 3, and I believe 5 of his last 7. What I have down on the prelims, let's touch on those. Number 7, Raquel Pennington versus number 4, Espn Ladd in the women's bantamweight division. Pennington on a 3-fight win streak. The last one was the guillotine of Macy Chiasson, and one of the finer performances of her career. We really see Pennington excelling in clinch work and starting to take her grappling to another level. She'll have to, because Espn Ladd looks to throw heavy on the feet and get it to the ground. Back at 135 after a loss, up at 45 to Norma Dumont. And keep in mind, 6 of Ladd's 13 wins come from ground and pound finishes. In the welterweight division, another Irish phenom is in action. Unbeaten 8-0 Ian Gary, who's training out of the Sanford MMA gym there in South Florida, is taking on Darian Weeks, who's 5-1. Gary, 5 wins by knockout, coming off of knocking out Jordan Williams in his UFC debut. But Williams, somebody who had a real hard time due to certain dietary issues making welterweight. I never felt good about his performances there. So yeah, I'm knocking the knockout power in that one just a bit. And Williams, not known for his striking, was touching Gary. So I think Weeks, who has 100% finishing rate, 4 wins by knockout, 1 win by submission, and a UFC debut loss to Brian Barberina. That man's tough as nails. I think Weeks is going to test if Gary is for real on a way that the Irishman hasn't yet. But a massive favorite, is what I know. Gary comes in at a minus 365, while Weeks is a plus 280 underdog. Middleweight action, part of that whole debacle that I mentioned earlier, while Anthony Hernandez, Josh Frem. Hernandez, his last 2 wins have come by submission, but when I saw him coming up through the California regional scene, he loved to chuck the leather. Josh Frem, he's won 7 of 8. A 3-fight win streak by knockouts. Before a loss, he's won 2 more. Overall, 4 knockouts and 3 submissions. Frem is a finisher. That one has excitement written all over it. In a top 10 heavyweight matchup, Junior Rosenstruck, the number 8 ranked contender, takes on number 10 Marcin Tybura. Rosenstruck, 11 knockouts, 8 wins in the first round. He's knocked out a ton of well-known names like Overeem, Arlovsky, Dos Santos, and Sakai. Well, Tybura has won 5 of 6. Excellent Muay Thai, great knees, can get it to the clinch, can get it to the ground. He's beat Arlovsky, Struve, and even Sergey Spivak, who is on a killer roll right now. This one could be a lot of fun if Rosenstruck doesn't just sleep Tybura right away, where he has that potential, and I kind of like the odds of that one happening. On the early prelims, in welterweight action, Mickey Gall is back to take on Mike Malott. Gall, 7 wins, 6 submissions. Always the pressure of the remembering the CM Punk fight and all the expectation of that big payday and the future of Gall as he's been rounding out his game. Will Malott, a 3-fight win streak, 3 knockouts, 4 submissions, 100% finishing rate. These two guys, 14 wins, 13 finishes. Excitement will happen. In the bantamweight division, Julio Arce is going to be taking on Daniel Santos. Arce, a TKO over Andre Ul in his bantamweight debut. 5 knockouts, 5 submissions. Well, the Brazilian Daniel Santos, making his UFC debut, has 4 wins by knockout, and 3 of them come from a spin. 2 by a spinning back kick and 1 by spinning back elbow. Again, more excitement put on this card. Also at lightweight, you got Marco Madsen, who is unbeaten against Vince Pichel. Madsen coming off a decision wins over Austin Hubbard and Clay Guida. We know he can wrestle. We know he can bang it out. He's going to be tested, though, by a violent pressure fighter in Vince Pichel, who's on a 3-fight win streak, beating Roosevelt Roberts. The veteran Jim Miller, you know it's an accomplishment when you beat him. And also taking out Austin Hubbard. And the opening fight of the night, as I have it, has Kay Hansen versus unbeaten former LFA champion Perina Rodriguez. Hansen, 4 submissions, 3 wins by ground and pound, 100% finishing rate. Where Pereira has 5 of her 7 wins by TKO, gets it to the ground, and also looks to smash you. Other action this week, MMA-wise, on Saturday, UFC Fight Pass has Cage Fight Series 10, and on Sunday, you have Titan FC 57 and Budo Santo Championship Volume 7. Those are both all on Fight Pass. CageMinds.com is the website. Visit it. Tell your friends about it. We're on social media. Facebook, it's Cage Minds Combat Sports News. Shout out to Franklin Romero for going down to Hobbs, covering Combative Wars 13 this past weekend. The photos on the Facebook page are all courtesy of him. Shout out to Mikey Tovar, the 3rd round TKO in the main event. Shout out to Derek Perez, the 3rd round TKO in the co-main event. And then on the Instagram, it's at CageMinds_CSN. More photos from Franklin Romero going up there. And on the Twitter, keep up with what we're doing. It's at Cage Minds MMA. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.